growth requires more than capital.
Why do we call it the cheat code? Nobody said growth had to be fair.
Revenue solves everything.
Welcome to the cheat code. What was our fastest path to revenue?
We tend to like to do things the hard way.
What's the cheat code? It's giving yourself an unfair advantage over the others.
What is it that really works, and how are we going to grow these organizations?
That's our cheat code. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Cheat Code. I am Josh Wagner, joined alongside Justin Gray. Justin, what's up?
Same old shit, different day, as they say.
So you're t-shirting it today, so that's sweet.
I am.
That's a rarity for
It's casual Gray. Justin.
Casual Justin on a Monday, no less. Well, welcome to the show, everyone. We thank you very much for listening. As you know, this is season 2 of The Cheat Code. We focused exclusively on go-to-market partnerships this season. We've had some fabulous guests, and today's is no different. So today's guest has spent over a decade in the global partner ecosystem. He believes in long-term relationships over short-term transactions, and the current head of partnerships at ProsperOps, Joe Henderson. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're super pumped to have you here. So Joe gave us a little insight. We're doing a little show prep. He's like, oh no, I've listened to 10 episodes of the show already. We're like, wow.
You know, he's the one.
Yeah,
yes.
One guy.
I'm a longish listener, first time caller. So appreciate being here.
Yeah, we appreciate that. That's why our numbers spiked this month. So now we know. That's pretty exciting. So as you know, being an avid listener of the cheat code, we just jump right in. So give us the insight into your go-to-market partner cheat code.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. My cheat code is a mindset of long-term relationships over short-term transactions. So even that first call or that first meeting with the partner, think of it as like you're going to have a long, fruitful relationship and even possibly work with that person maybe at your next gig. If you get your heart broken along the way, that's fine. It happens a lot. But starting out with, instead of thinking, what can I get from them this quarter, and thinking long-term, that's the cheat code.
So Joe, obviously love the cheat code. And I feel like it's one of those things where in an environment where everyone's compressed, right? Where we have a lot of downward pressure from sales, from marketing, and for partnerships to produce whatever it is that metric is we're required to produce. That mindset makes sense, but oftentimes gets left in the dust when it's like, hey, I need revenue today, right? So how do you combat that, whether it's a hire to your boss, to your team, whatever it may be?
Yeah, I think it's all about setting the expectation early on, whether it's in the interview process, if you're interviewing for a partner position, or if you're interviewing someone to be on your team. These things take time. What I usually think is this thing's going to take probably a year. The first 6 months, we'll be running around, probably having a lot of bad conversations, a lot of good conversations. Then that third quarter you're in role, you're going to start to get some wins. You're going to start to get some data. It's not really till that fourth quarter where deals are flowing, and then you could make some bets on what you're going to do for the next year. So it's expectations and then resetting those expectations. Because like you said, even if you get hired and they say, oh, yeah, great, it's going to take a year, probably 2 months into the role, they're going to be saying, where's the revenue? So it's resetting that expectation that it's going to take some time.
Well, I like how you chunked it out, right, into first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, et cetera. What are some of those steps, though, that are happening along the way, right? Just telling the CEO that we're not going to yield a result from this partner for a year or two likely isn't going to cut it. But you kind of mentioned some chunks there. So what are the things that are happening in that time frame?
Yeah, I think it's just documenting every bit of activity. So if we take the chunks down in that first 6 months, you're going to be talking to everybody, and you should be talking to everybody. So documenting exactly what you're doing, the activity that you're doing and why you're doing it, and showcasing that and rolling that up. Because if you're not documenting, you're not reporting on what you're doing, they're just going to assume you're probably not doing anything. So it's all about the documentation, that first bit of why you're doing this, why you're placing these bets. And then when you get to that third quarter, we maybe got some early wins, then you can start to focus it out. And then you can start to really think about leads, opportunities, revenue, and kind of build from there. And each stage, just keep focusing in more and more. So, but it's all about documentation. There's a great guy out there. His name's Greg Portnoy. He has this, he just launched a tool, I believe. I think it's public now. But he talks about art versus science. A lot of partner folks are great about painting a picture. I'm not going to steal his stuff, but yeah, it's great but it's all about data science and actually documenting what you're doing, telling that story of data.
Yeah, I love the hiring aspect that you kind of alluded to there, because there's so many folks that we talk to, you know, in any role. But, you know, obviously we're always looking for a partner mindset and some, hopefully some experience doing that in the past. And, you know, if someone can't cite that, even that concept down into actionable steps. Like, how did you work with partners? How did you leverage them in your past? How do you think about partnerships and the returns that are derived from, this critical motion? All too often we get that response of like, well, we didn't really deal with partners that much, or, I worked with the partner team and they would kind of give us some direction and so on. So just getting insight into, do you have that desire? Do you have that mentality? And do you think about that over time? And I think, where my mind goes immediately is like, are they leveraging relationships and partnerships, even with their own, in their own, job hunt or, career and so on? Just such a critical aspect that I think you can draw a lot of lines of comparison between.
Yeah, I even think when you're at those initial conversations, just like really focusing on, is this partner, does this even like fit? Meaning like, does what you're selling them even fit? Does it important to them? What do they give a shit about as a company? And the person that you're talking to, how's that actually going to work? And I think a lot of that it sounds simple, but a lot of it's breezed over a little bit, where you're talking about your value prop and you're talking about what they do, but like, is it actually going to move the needle within these companies? And so you can get real specific with these initial conversations.
Yeah, I think that value proposition, we've talked about it multiple times on the show, but truly understanding that from a multidimensional capacity is key to establishing those long-term partnerships. And to your point, like setting that expectation, like chances are we're not going to get a ton of source deals from this partner in the first quarter, right? But here are those metrics that you can lean on, and just instilling the confidence that, yeah, this is working the way it should work. I feel like so many people don't have that context, and so they're just looking for the lowest hanging fruit there, which is always, did they give us a deal of something moving forward? And all too often that stifles partnership right there, because you're looking for that shiny object. So yeah, completely understand it. I've kind of seen that in practice many, many times.
So Joe, one of the things that I'm thinking about here, I absolutely love the long-term mindset, but you can't literally take that into every conversation. Otherwise, you're going to be spinning wheels with a lot of non-fit partners potentially. What kind of pre-work do you have to do to take that relationship into a conversation? To know that
it's actually someone you want to marry, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of research. And like you said before, kind of like leveraging your network of back channeling before you even talk to that person. So if you're starting a new role at a new partner company, you're likely going to probably bring some partners with you, or have some folks on your periphery that you know is going to be a good fit. So it's all about that sort of research and really like seeing if it's even worth your time to get on that call. And also, if you're at a company that's getting a lot of inbounds from kind of random partners all over the place, like before you even take that call, like really, can they answer, like make your top 3 questions? Like, is it going to be that fit? So it has to do with that research. And then you just got to like realize you're probably going to have some bad calls and some calls that aren't going to be worth it, and accept that in the beginning.
How do you disseminate that information? Like either from a systematic standpoint, you know what I mean? Like how do you kind of capture that, those strong indications like, yeah, this is someone worth our investment. And even these are the conversations and the things that is produced in that short time frame to give people the confidence that, yeah, this is a strategic partner. This is someone that we should continue to invest in.
Yeah, I think just like when you're kind of ramped up and you have like maybe a partner scoring system, something like that, you need to kind of write that out at the beginning and think about like, what is this going to look like in the future? And kind of like write out that scoring system right away. And like, can you answer some of these questions on your own? Some of the questions you're not going to know, you're going to have to take, use your gut on. And some of them you're going to be able to find out. Like, is this partner like a certain level of this cloud? Are they certified? How many people, how many engineers do they have? What do their customers look like? And especially with, AI out there, you can do a lot of this research ahead of time on them pretty quickly.
What are some of the more like qualitative and quantitative attributes you're looking for in a good partner?
Well, there is probably, there's the first aspect. So if you're dealing in like the cloud, like, are they working with the clouds that you're on, right? Are they, it's a service partner, like certain basic things. And then like, what levels are they? And then, like what customer types they have. And then like, is this going to actually, do they have the customers that fit our ICP? So if you're starting a partnership, you should have, your internal, ICP figured out. And then like, do they even serve customers that fit this ICP? So that's what I would say for that.
I'm always curious how much you take culture into consideration.
Yes. So culture is one of those things where it's gut. It's completely like could I get along with this person? Would I want to spend some time with them? Could I have a beer or a coffee with them? It's really, that's the hardest one. And that's the one that you have to take the biggest, I guess, leap of faith on and just take a guess at, because I've had partners where I think they're the best cultural fit and they become friends and sometimes long-term friends, but I never did a deal with them. They were the wrong partner to partner with, but they were a great cultural fit for me at the time.
Right.
Turns out they probably weren't the best for the business.
I think I see that most, manifest predominantly in the other direction, to where, everyone is so, desirous of that logo, or, it's such a great fit from a customer overlap perspective, from a buying center perspective, but the partner just is a terrible fit from a culture aspect. And so, like, have you run into that in the past?
Yeah, totally. It happens probably more often than not, where, that they've done a case study with some customer, this is going to work out, but like, you may have some sellers that like want to kind of not control the deal, but want to be very involved. And this might be a giant GSI that's like, listen, this is my customer. Like, I will let you know when you're allowed to talk to them, that type of thing. And it can kind of create that conflict right away. So yes, they may have the big logo, they have the one you're hunting on, but it's just going to frustrate everybody sort of like throughout the entire chain of people trying to work that deal. So sometimes that's tough.
Yeah, I wonder if there's even a way to overcome that, because it's just such a repetitious cycle to where, again, like the predominant player in the space, everyone wants the partnership.
Yep.
But you see all those signals on the wall that it's not going to work out. And I would say, I'm trying to think back on an example that would go against this, because I think it's 100% of the time it fails. And so, again, I think that's just trying to have that buy-in and really that top-down empowerment to say, are we actually going to obey things like a scorecard that you put together? And are we going to build that into the scorecard, right? Like, I'm curious if you've run into a situation where you had to, pivot an organization away from what they felt was going to be, the no-brainer partner of the year.
Yeah, totally. We've had one where, in past gigs where, you do that partner scorecard, maybe you score them, like, you pre-score them before you get on a call with them, and then you maybe don't review them until like a quarter or like a year or like a couple deals fall. And you should really be doing it if you have a cadence with them every week, or you're conversing with them. You should be actually doing that like every week or every 2 weeks or every month. And so that scorecard can kind of change pretty wildly in a shorter amount of time. So the more you're thinking about that, the more like at the end of the week, be like, do I trust this person? Or is like, is this actually in our best interest? Or is like, do they really have that relationship? And they should be.
Do you communicate that with the partner? Because that's an interesting concept, right? Like,
yes,
kind of giving them visibility into that scorecard, which I don't see often. So you actually will give them a rundown on like, hey, this is what we're seeing. I think we're getting a bit off track here.
Yeah, no, I would say there's a variation of what we share, and they should have a variation of what they're sharing with us. It makes sense, because if you realize, like, should I be spending time with this person? You realize, oh crap, they scored really high in this category, really low in this category, and then you start to think about the time spent. Is it worth the time? And if you just show them, hey, we are thinking about this stuff. Here's some of the categories, and this is why the score is not working out this way. It's probably mutual. Is this really going to work out? So I think like you can share, probably not in the most detail, but a version of that in a talk track, I think lands pretty well. I mean, it has for us.
Yeah, I think that, like, the thing I've found from the partner side is, specifically the partner team, right? Like, if they've got a dedicated group of folks put towards this, they always want that feedback. When it falls in the negative category, it can turn into like a finger pointing situation pretty quickly. So there's definitely an art to how do I share that feedback that, like, your seller's blowing up a deal, or like, we recommended this to the client and we know it's the right thing to do, but maybe it goes against a feature set in their software or something like that. So I think that's where that art and science that you talked about certainly comes in. And I mean, the more we talk about this topic on this season, like, that partner leader is just like the absolute maestro of this entire process. And so I'd love to see someone like capture that in a way that is comprehensive in a job description, because I think that's just such a difficult role to hire for.
Absolutely. And so when you think about like what we really do as partner leaders, especially like when you have a team and you're not running around like crazy and you're managing this business and this data, these metrics, we're literally, and I always joke around, it's like we're a third a publicist, a third a lobbyist, and a third a fixer. So we are trying to like think about marketing activities or campaigns we can do with these partners from a strategic level. And we're lobbying to like make sure that we're top of mind to us, or if we're working with like one of the big clouds, you have to like consistently do that. And then you're just fixing problems. You're the Ray Donovan. You're going, oh crap, this blew up over here, or this is going really here. And you got to go save a deal or like calm someone down on your side or the other side. And that's kind of like how it ultimately breaks down. So yeah, it's always interesting. But yeah, it'd be great if someone could capture some of like the non like specific metric stuff into some of the feeling stuff, I guess.
Yep.
It sounds like we just wrote the job description.
There you go.
Exactly.
I dare anyone listening to put that as their next GD and tell us what kind of results they get.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the consistency here is like, partnerships, and I've never heard anyone try to refute this. It'd be interesting to find a guest that took that stance. But like the amount of time that's spent trying to, form, nurture, manage these partnerships is just exponential. And so like you need someone in that role who is, really good at identifying those kind of unsaids. And you need the backing of an executive team that understands this is a long play. Absolutely. A long play with a lot of like immediate value on the way, but it certainly is a long play.
Yeah, exactly. And with, being in partnerships, you can talk to people all day. You can have conversations all day if you want to. You can literally feel you're like, oh my God, I'm so busy. It was crazy this week. And like, what did you actually do? And so one of the things we started implementing recently, because I'm guilty of this, and I go in ebbs and flows, so I'm not perfect on this, but we try to like make, Mondays like, hey, ease into your week, like get your week set up. At the end of the week, like fade into the weekend. And in the middle of the week, make it effing chaos. Like take early calls and just go crazy. But at the end of that week, what we're starting to do is, where did I waste my time? Not waste my time, it's a little harsh, but like what calls were I on where it was completely unnecessary? It wasn't a good move. And then look ahead to next week. There's got to be one call that you can cancel next week. Just cancel it. Don't show up to it or cancel it, or just like you're 1 out of 13 on it, don't attend it. So that's one of those things, is really just being cautious of your time, and always every week look back. All right, what was valuable, what was not valuable, and next week you try to get ahead of it.
Love that.
And so like I'm telling my team to do this right now, and so like they're empowered, and so we're really trying, and it's hard. Like it's not, we don't nail it every time, but at least we're starting to like, get it down.
Well, all right, well, let's pretend we're doing all the things, right? We've got the right mindset. We're documenting our activity. We're hitting the KPIs, so to speak, along the way. We've got the scorecard. We're checking the scorecard. We're cutting meetings out of our week. We're ebbing and flowing. We're doing all this stuff. But like at the end of the day, we're not seeing like the hard, tangible result 12 months in. How do you know that it's time to pull the plug?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends. I guess it's how long you've been at the gig and like sort of your experience. Sometimes you can sniff that out ahead of time, and you should probably start interviewing. But I think it's looking at like the categories that you're actually looking at, because in the partner world or the ecosystem world, there's so many different categories. And so looking at like, do we just go on resellers? Like, are resellers even like the move here? Or is it just like referral partners? Like we have a bucket in one of my companies past was cloud services. So it's anything from a one person consultant to a GSI, right? It's like this giant bucket. So like, which ones did we make the bets on? And then should we focus our attention to venture capital, private equity? What else is in this general ecosystem? So I think it's also focusing on the buckets, because what you see is a lot of companies, they'll hire someone based on their success that they had their previous companies, and they roll into a slightly different company and they go, well, I know how to build a reseller motion or MSP motion. It's like, great. They don't know any better. And like, maybe you shouldn't have been going after MSPs for the year. And maybe you should be focusing on something else. So yeah, I think it's looking at those categories pretty hard, of like, did you actually spend time in the right category before you pull the plug? And listen, if it's not working, maybe you made the wrong move. Maybe you shouldn't have done partnerships in the first place.
Who do you roll into, and what are you seeing predominantly in the space right now?
Who do I roll into as far as what?
Yeah, like, well, who's your boss?
Oh, yeah. CRO.
CRO.
Okay. Yeah, CRO.
And are you seeing that as a fairly common thread, or are you seeing anything different?
Yeah, I think it's pretty common, at least in my career. I'm thinking back to the past ones. It's always been this. So I typically work at small startups. So sometimes it rolls right up to the CEO, but pretty much it's in the revenue team and it rolls up to the CRO.
So how much education and managing up do you find yourself having to do?
At past companies, yeah, it's
yeah, you have to have a political layer there.
Past companies.
That was great.
It's 50% of their job is like internal marketing ends up being. Because even if you get someone sold on in a conversation, you have a win to showcase, the next quarter, the next week, it'll fall off. It's like, I cannot pronounce his last name, forgive me, Judd, who was on a reset one. He did that exercise where he's like, fold your arms, refold them, like how different it is. That kind of like hit me when I actually did the exercise. But that's the same thing for a founder or a CEO or a CRO has been doing this a certain way for so many years. It's really hard to get them out of that habit of just thinking in that direct motion. So yeah, half your time sometimes is spent on internal marketing doing it. One of the things that's worked out really well is as part of that internal publicity is coming up with like a hashtag or whatever. So anytime any seller or somebody outside of the partner world are doing something partner friendly or cool, is like shout it out in the group Slack, hashtag something that you want to put in there as far as like something partner focused, and start to get that internal cultural motion going. So everybody gets FOMO, they want to participate, and it kind of goes around.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like that's so powerful, because at the end of the day, people just they want to know what other people are doing, almost as a license to lean into something, right? Like we were having a conversation with a guest that we'll roll out this week, Mac Redden, and he was talking about just marketing campaigns and initiatives that are like way off the beaten path, right? And just being able to use that example, I actually sent it to one of our portcos. I was like, look what these guys did here, right? Like, you don't need a massive amount of money at an event like they did this wing eating contest, right? And like it was a table and a couple of chairs and obviously the apparatus to serve hot wings with different sauces on them and so on. But it blew up because the conversation was all about like, if we don't have a massive amount of money, can we actually make it an impact at a corporate event? And so, but I feel like the example is the same thing. Like, look at what other people are doing, and I think that also gives you a license to go out and try and one up those categories. But you have to think about the amount of just like past, what I term as fairly benign, repetitive partner motion. There is a typical approach out there, and that's what people have seen over and over again, and that's what they equate success to. Even though I would say the majority of partner programs do not yield what that organization set out to do in the first place. So you have to do something different. And ultimately, you have to lean in. It comes largely back to, I think, that very unique partnership management or leadership role.
Totally. And focusing on pick on the sales team for a little bit. It's like there's 10 sellers, just for math purposes. There's 2 sellers that are like above plan. They're killing it. They're awesome. 2 sellers are about to get fired. And then you have 6 in between that are just kind of waiting and doing okay. Like, you shouldn't focus on those 2. They're going to get fired. And there's just trying to grab like one of like the top sellers and like one of like the middle. So you need 2 out of those 10 to like go on this journey with you and to like go for it. And like, let's just try this and not try to like make everybody happy, because not everybody's going to help you out. Just find 2 out of 10 to like go for it with. And then if you get them winning or like get them some opportunities, the rest will kind of follow. So, and just having that mindset going in, like most people aren't going to want to work with you.
Yeah, I love that early adopter mentality.
And you have to sell it, to your point, right? Like grabbing those 2 people, it's a what's in it for them scenario. And I tell a lot of stories going back to when Justin and I first started at Lead MD. But one of the first things he told me, and I was a salesperson for him, he's like, listen, man, do you want to make 50 cold calls, or do you want to build relationships with 2 sellers at our partner and get 5 deals a month from them? And I'm like, yeah, I'll do the latter. You know what I mean? So, make it simple, stupid, especially for salespeople. We're idiots.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, do you make the same commission by winning a deal from a partner lead? Probably. So why wouldn't you want that?
Yeah, totally agree. Well, let's shift gears a little bit. You told me that you are the Forrest Gump of partnerships. What on earth does that mean?
Yes. So 1, I'm not very smart. 2, I kind of fell ass backwards into some stuff. So I was tell people how I got started in partnerships, where I was working at a company, Puppet, back in the day. I live in the Philadelphia area now. I was back in Portland. So at the time, Puppet was the darling of DevOps. And, the hottest company out there had an open source product where people could download it for free, and then a paid version that we were selling. And so I saw that there was some leads coming in from outside of the country that no one was following. I was selling trainings at the time. I was not even an AE yet. I was selling trainings. And I saw a bunch of inbounds or downloads coming from APAC, like Australia, all over the place. And I said, is anybody following up with these? Like, well, it's getting an autoresponder. Tiny company at the time. There's no reason why they would have had a rep on it. So it's no detriment to them. Hey, if you want to follow up with some of these, go for it. So I just started sending follow-ups, and then randomly got a inbound from a company a consultancy who was working with a bank, and said, hey, we need to buy your software for this bank. And so I said, okay. And so I went to my boss and I said, is this okay? Can we sell it? Yeah, fucking sell it to them. What are you doing? Like, of course we can. And it turned out to be a huge deal, to the deal that they were like, well, hey, why don't you get on a plane, go to one of these trainings you sold, and go explore, take that partner out to dinner and explore what's out here. And then I did that. We sold a couple more deals, just going back and forth from Portland to Sydney. And then they said, all right, we need to open up an office. We're going to move you and your wife to Sydney. So then I was the partner person all of a sudden. So I went from having like no partner experience to now saying, all right, you're going to help manage Asia Pacific. So to do business in different countries for the US companies, better to go through partners. So you need to go open up partnerships all across that area. So I spent 2 years flying from back and forth to New Zealand to Singapore to Malaysia to Hong Kong to Tokyo and back. So in those 2 years on planes, I kind of got like a master's degree in partnerships just because I was there at the right time. And so, yeah, that's how I fell ass backwards into it. And then I moved back and, ran the West Coast partnerships for another company and just kind of been doing that ever since.
That's a great example that we don't talk about enough in terms of like opening up new markets through partner channel. I mean, that's what Marketo did back in the day. Like they had no APAC presence whatsoever. They had actually someone who was white labeling their software within that region. And then it just got so large that they were forced to open a direct office down there because they're like, wow, we've got, I think it was like over 200 clients that were all, going through this reseller. And that's ultimately what they did across EMEA as well. So just such an effective strategy that I don't think that's the intuitive order in which businesses think. They normally think like, hey, let's go over there, let's establish something, and then we'll branch out and establish this partner motion. But like can be an awesome. I mean, you think about like it's the fundamental of partnerships, like who holds the relationships and how do we start getting access and taking advantage of those relationships. So should be much more of a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I applied a lot of that stuff as well. It's like, yeah, obviously the culture is different in Tokyo as it is in, Nashville, Tennessee, but you can kind of apply some of the same principles where it's like, this is not an area I'm from. This is not an area I know. These guys probably have a relationship that's better than ours, obviously. And they're doing business the way they're doing business. So I'm going to respect that, let them introduce and just really focus on the relationship with those partners in those different areas. So yeah, taking that international based mindset in the US is, you can still do that.
Yeah, especially with a place like, Japan or something like that, to where like the culture is massively different. You need someone to kind of hold your hand and walk you through how to succeed in that area. Just, again, such a no-brainer.
Yeah, I had that. We had a translator from the distributor that we signed that literally basically held my hand through subways and through into meetings. So you're 100% accurate on that.
Well, what I love about your story, if you listen to Jared Fuller, who kicked off this season, he said, the partner person should be the entrepreneur in the room. That story is an entrepreneurial story, right? It's like, hey, here's an opportunity. Let's chase it. Let's figure it out. And then now we're off and gaining experiences in often new lands. I mean,
yeah, totally.
That's as good as it gets.
Yeah, exactly. Just keeping your eye out there for opportunity that might not be like right in front of you or what you're used to. It can open up a lot of stuff. So
yeah, well, absolutely love it. The mindset of long-term relationships over short-term transactions is a killer cheat code. We think it absolutely dials into what we're trying to do and trying to accomplish here with this show and our cheat code of partnerships as a go-to-market lever to pull. So tell the audience where they can find you and what they should be looking for.
Hit me up on LinkedIn, and then I'm just putting out a little bit more partner type content. But I mean, if you're a big cloud spender, check out ProsperOps. But shameless plug there. But yeah, just hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to chat, and it's for like 15-30 minutes, just like share stories, and I learn a lot from this network. Just like I said, I've been listening to this pod. A lot of the folks on here I've been following for a while, And I've gotten a lot of my knowledge just from listening to them and eventually talking to them. So appreciate you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, great
podcast. So it's very valuable for guys like me.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm curious, Joe, just for my own edification, how much time do you spend a day on LinkedIn? This is just a mini survey I've started running.
Yeah. So my hardest thing is keeping it consistent, because I go through these ebbs and flows where I post a lot and I don't. I got to get more consistent on it. I would say each day, at least a half hour every day. I'd like to put out, something a week, but it gets harder and harder. So I think that's a decent enough goal to actually write something.
Yeah, I think a half hour is a good goal. Did you guys, I don't know if you guys are big Twitter guys or not. Wags, I know you're not. Of course, I follow Musk on Twitter. He put up this graphic the other day, and it was, I should go over to LinkedIn. So the first picture, the second, it needs a different color from everyone else. Second picture, plus 30 minutes on LinkedIn, someone ripping in and grabbing his heart out. And then the third is he's the same color as everyone else. So I think about a half hour is about that limit before you've got too much like B2B, I'm trying to sell you something culture. It's really difficult because I think LinkedIn is a trove of great information, but I do think that there's a daily limit.
Yeah, and it's like there's a lot of crap to sift through, but yeah, there's a lot of great content on. You can learn a lot on there. Yeah,
I heard all you got to do is post a selfie and then write something, and you're dialed.
Interesting images. That's all you need.
Yeah. Okay. And what about video? Is video getting the algorithm moving, or just selfies?
I mean, what I've honestly found is video is helpful. Images are helpful if you can convert someone into actually putting their eyes on that longer than, a second. So I really do find it's whatever that first sentence is. If that reels someone in, then people are more apt to click on a video than they are certainly an external link and so on. But you get a very short amount of time to try to capture someone's attention, which is ubiquitous to all platforms, really.
Yeah. Well, Joe, excellent discussion. We appreciate you bringing the energy. Great stories. Big thank you for both of us for joining the show.
Yeah, thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
All right. Well, for those of you listening, maybe for the first time, we'd appreciate it if you would subscribe to the pod, give us a like, a thumbs up, maybe even a review. That would be really killer. And on behalf of Justin and another thank you to Joe, this was another episode of The Cheat Code.